Hi everyone! In today's video, I'll be sharing with you the process that I've used to create this illustration. This is a new series that I've started, Animal Habitats, and this is the first piece of the series, Desert Animals. So what basically the series is about, I select a couple of animals from a particular habitat that they live in, and I'm going to do illustration on a spread in my sketchbook of all these animals. So basically, I'm using the Nostalgie Hahnemuhle A4 sketchbook, and I'm going to be using the Inktense, Derwent Inktense pencils as well as Inktense blocks if I need to cover larger areas for the illustrations. Now I'm doing the initial sketch of all the animals that I've selected by using my reference photos, which are royalty-free reference photos, and I'm just sketching all of them onto the page just so that I have an idea of where they all go and I have a good composition. Now I'm using the Faber-Castell Aquarelle Pencil. That's a water-soluble graphite pencil. That is just so that I can, when I add the water to the Inktense, to activate the Inktense, I won't have any harsh graphite lines. The graphite lines will not be a problem because it's water-soluble. So they will basically disappear into the drawing and I won't have to worry about lines showing through the ink illustration. So after I did the initial sketch, I just went ahead and swatched out all 72 of the Inktense pencils just to see. You can see on each swatch the left side is dry pencil, and I've just activated the second or the right side with the water, very little water on the brush, just to see how they look both ways, dry and activated with water. I've also got a set of 12 Inktense blocks, which I just wanted to swatch and see the colors in case there were larger areas that I needed to cover with the blocks, and I at least have an idea what colors they are. Okay, so now I'm going back to the drawings. Now remember, when you apply the Inktense pencils, initially it'll look very light. You will not, you will think that it doesn't have enough pencil on it, and I'm not pressing hard at all. I'm using no pressure on the pencil. I'm just applying the pencil with the light hand, paying close attention to my reference photo, looking at the lights and the darks because I want a quite realistic animal. Not super realistic, but I want it to look like the animal, and it must be a illustration depicting the animal correctly. And you can see I'm going in using a small round brush, and I'm just adding a very little hint of water. I'm not soaking the paper, I'm just using enough water so that I can activate the pencil. And you can see once you activate it with the water, it becomes much more vibrant and saturated, and the color becomes very intense. So bear that in mind when you are using Inktense pencils. That's why it's very handy to have the swatch done of all the colors. So now I've started with the camel, and now I'm moving on to the rattlesnake. As you can see, now with the rattlesnake, there's a lot of details in there. Now what I use, or how I use the Inktense pencils, is I usually keep, when I'm applying them, I keep some of the detail in there. So you'll see some strokes of pencil and lines, and I keep that in there. And then when I activate with water, if I lose some of those, I just wait for it to dry, or if you want to speed up drying time, you can use a hairdryer, dry the drawing, and then once it's absolutely dry, you can go on ahead with another layer, and you can continuously add more layers as you need to create the look that you want. Just make sure the paper is absolutely dry, just to avoid, if you use the paper still wet and you try to put the pencil, you could damage the paper, and two, you could also have very dark marks made onto the paper which will not be able to be erased. Remember, this is ink, it's permanent, and it's not going to be able to be corrected. And especially with a piece like this, it's got multiple animals. I don't want to have a risk of messing up one animal where I have a problem with it and then I have to redo the entire piece. So when working with these pencils, bear in mind that you need to let it dry between layers, but you can add as many layers as you need. These pencils worked absolutely beautifully with this paper. It was a really smooth paper, and it's a thick paper, so it can take the water, it doesn't buckle. So I really enjoyed using these pencils on this paper. It's perfect. They like a perfect combination. And also the good thing with Inktense, you can always add the dry pencil over and leave it that way. You don't have to use the water over it. If you want a certain texture or a certain look, you can use the pencils plain and leave them dry. So you can see now I moved on to the scorpion. If you've noticed in my at the beginning of the video, you saw me doing this initial sketch. In the sketch, I had the scorpion in another angle, and then I decided to change him to another angle to make him fit properly into the composition, because I didn't want any of the animals to overlap one another. I wanted them to each be separate, completely apart from one another, not in front or behind of one another. So yeah, that's why it's so important to do your sketch of all the animals initially, so you can pick up these things and you can also try to get them to all fit and look good on the spread. So now I've moved on to the Fennec Fox. Now with the Fennec Fox, I wanted to show the fur, show his fur, and have pay close attention to the direction of the fur. That the reason being is when I go over with the shadows, highlights, and go to water over it, after I put the shadows and highlights, I don't want to lose some of the details. So pay close attention to how you're applying the water with the brush, because you don't want to lose everything that you've put on there. You want some of that detail to show through. So you can see if you just look at it this way, it looks very light, but once you start adding the water, you can see how vibrant and rich the color becomes. And you can see how saturated the colors are. And when the Fennec Fox, I wanted to show the fur on his ears a bit, and his fur and his tail. I wanted to pay attention to some of those areas. But all while I'm working through this piece, I'm paying close attention to the reference photos to make sure that the animals look realistic, or as realistic as I can make the illustrations. And now I moved on to the Roadrunner Bird. Now if you look at this bird drawing or initial laydown of color, it looks just gray. It's not only gray, there are some greens in there and some browns and some reddish brown tones, just to get the, initially looks that way, but once the water is activated, you can see the other colors that I've used for this illustration. Now with the series, I had to do a lot of research into each habitat. I think in total I've got 10 habitats, and I had to pay close attention to the animals that live in those habitats, get some details of those animals, and also some royalty-free photos, which I used for these illustrations. Now, as you can see, this tarantula, I've moved on to the tarantula, and he looks very flat and more like a crayon drawing if you look at him this way. But once I add the water, he becomes so vibrant and rich and detailed, and he looks much more realistic than the initial drawing. So that's the good thing about using these pencils. They're amazing to create more believable drawings, or drawings that resemble, I can't talk, sorry, to create drawings that resemble the animal that you're actually trying to depict. Okay, so now I've moved on to the Gila Monster. Unfortunately, with the Gila Monster, my tripod decided to lower my camera, and I lost focus on the drawing when I was doing it, so I lost some of that footage. So I'm sorry about that. But now I've moved on from the Gila Monster, and now we are drawing I'm drawing the Jackrabbit. So with the Jackrabbit as well, I wanted to show the texture of his fur and the texture of his hair. So I kept some of those as I was applying the water. I bared in mind the direction of it as I was drawing as well, just so that I can keep those textures and that detail in there when I go over with the water. So you can see now I'm going over with the water, but you can still see all the details that I've put in. So you have to pay very close attention to how you are applying the water. And then the last one of the desert animals is the lizard. So this one also is going to look very light at first, but then once I add the water, he's going to become much more brighter and vibrant and saturated. So I guess that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to like and share. If you'd like to keep up to date with the progress of the series and see more behind the scenes or work in progress pics, you can follow me on Instagram. I will put a link below in the description below, and also I will be posting a video per week of every habitat, so you can, if you don't want to miss out on that, don't forget to hit the notification bell and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So I guess that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Till the next one. Bye.